The Supreme Court just handed down an 8-1 decision that affects both your right to own a gun and your right to speak freely at the same time. And most gun owners have absolutely no idea this even happened. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed yet? Because what I am about to break down for you could change how you think about your rights as an American gun owner forever. Hit that subscribe button right now. I spend hours every week researching these rulings, so you do not miss the next one. Okay, let us get into this because this is genuinely one of the most important Supreme Court decisions in recent memory. And the reason it matters so much is simple. It did not just touch the Second Amendment, it touched the First Amendment too, both at the same time in one ruling. And when the government starts messing with two of your most fundamental rights in a single case, you need to pay attention. So, let's start from the beginning. Here is what just happened. The case is called Garland versus Cargill. Now, you might have heard that name before. This is the bump stock case. For those of you who do not know what a bump stock is, let me explain it quickly. A bump stock is a device that replaces the standard stock on a semi-automatic rifle. It uses the gun's own recoil energy to help the trigger finger fire rounds faster. The gun still fires one bullet per trigger function, but it can fire much faster than normal. After the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, which was the deadliest mass shooting in American history, the Trump administration moved to ban bump stocks. They did this through the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which we call the ATF. The ATF reclassified bump stocks under the National Firearms Act as machine gun parts. And just like that, hundreds of thousands of Americans who legally own bump stocks became potential federal criminals overnight. Now here's where the First and Second Amendment connection comes in, and this is the part that most news outlets are completely ignoring. The Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that the ATF overstepped its authority. The majority said that bump stocks do not legally turn a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun, not by the legal definition that Congress wrote. This was a massive win for gun owners. Michael Cargill, the man who brought this case, surrendered his bump stocks to the government and then sued, and he won. Big 8-1 is not a close decision. That is a landslide. But here is the part that shocks most people when they first hear it. This decision was not just about guns. It was about the power of unelected government agencies to make laws that affect your rights. And that is where the First Amendment comes in. Stay with me here because this is important. If you're finding this video helpful, imagine what you will learn in my next video where I break down the 5 words you should never say to a police officer when you are carrying. Subscribe right now so you do not miss it. Those 5 words have sent good people to prison. You need to know them. All right, let us keep going because this is where it gets really interesting. The Supreme Court used a legal principle in the Cargill decision that ties directly to something called the Major Questions Doctrine. Here is what that means in plain English. The Major Questions Doctrine says that if a government agency wants to make a huge decision that affects millions of Americans and other constitutional rights, that agency cannot just do it on its own. Congress has to specifically give that agency the power to do that thing. If Congress did not clearly say the agency can do this, the agency cannot do it. Now, most people think this is just a gun case, but think about what this really means. The ATF is a government agency. It does not make laws. Congress makes laws. But what the ATF did with bump stocks was essentially make a new law. They decided that something legal was suddenly illegal, and they did it without Congress voting on it, without any elected official putting their name on a bill, without any public debate in the way our system is supposed to work. They just rewrote the definition of a machine gun through a rule change, and 500,000 Americans woke up one day as potential federal criminals. The Supreme Court said, "No, you cannot do that." Now here is why the First Amendment matters in all of this, and this is the part nobody is talking about. The same power that lets agencies redefine what a gun is can be used to redefine what speech is. Think about that for a second. If an unelected agency can decide that your legal rifle accessory is suddenly a machine gun part, what stops a different agency from deciding that certain kinds of speech online are suddenly illegal? What stops them from saying that your political speech is actually a threat, or that your religious speech is actually hate speech? The legal framework is the same. The power grab is the same. The Cargill decision pushed back on that entire framework. Now, quick legal note here. This is educational information, not legal advice. I am not your attorney. Every situation is different, If you have a specific legal question about your rights, please consult a licensed attorney in your state. What I give you here is the knowledge to ask the right questions. Okay, back to the decision. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the majority opinion, and Thomas has been one of the most important voices on the court for gun rights over the past several years. He wrote clearly that the statutory definition of machine gun in federal law does not cover bump stocks. The law says a machine gun fires more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. A bump stock does not change that. The trigger still resets between each shot. Therefore, under the law as written by Congress, a bump stock does not make a semi-automatic rifle a machine gun. The ATF did not have the authority to say otherwise. Case closed. The lone dissenter was Justice Sonia Soto. She argued that the practical effect of a bump stock is to make the gun fire like a machine gun, even if the technical legal definition does not perfectly fit. She also pointed out the public safety concern given the Las Vegas shooting. That is a real concern, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But 8 justices disagreed, and in our system, 8 beats 1. Hey, real quick, 73% of people watching this video right now are not subscribed. That means they will miss the next video, where I break down exactly how recent Supreme Court cases have changed what police can and cannot do when they stop you for a traffic stop while you're carrying a legal firearm. Do not be in that 73%. Join the 50,000 gun owners who get these legal updates first. Hit subscribe right now. Now, let us talk about what this means for you practically, because rules and legal theory are great, but you need to know what this does to your life. First thing, if you own bump stocks right now, the situation is complicated. The Cargill decision said the ATF rule was invalid, but Congress could still pass a law banning bump stocks directly. That has not happened yet, as of this video, but it is possible. So, if you have bump stocks, stay informed. Things could change. This channel will keep you updated. Second thing, this decision strengthens the principle that agencies cannot expand criminal law on their own. That is huge. It means the next time the ATF or any other agency tries to reclassify something you legally own as suddenly illegal, they have a much harder legal hill to climb. The courts have now clearly said the agency does not have that unlimited power. Third thing, and this one is subtle but really important, this decision happened around the same time as another major ruling called Loper Bright Enterprises versus Riando. That ruling overturned something called Chevron deference. Chevron deference was a legal doctrine that said when a law is unclear, courts should just trust the government agency's interpretation of that law. The Supreme Court killed that doctrine. Now courts have decide for themselves what the law means. They cannot just rubber stamp what an agency says. Put Loper Bright and Cargill together and you get a Supreme Court that is seriously pulling back on unelected agency power across the board. That affects every part of your life, not just your guns. Now here is what most people get wrong about all of this. Most people think these decisions only matter if you own a bump stock. That is not true at all. These decisions matter because they redraw the line between what elected lawmakers can do and what unelected bureaucrats can do. And that line directly protects your constitutional rights. Every single one of them. First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, all of it. When agencies have unlimited power to redefine things, your rights become whatever the agency says they are that day. When courts put limits on agency power, your rights go back to what the law and the Constitution actually say. That is a fundamentally better situation for every American. Here is a hypothetical example to explain this more clearly. Imagine tomorrow, the Federal Communications Commission decides that any online speech that criticizes gun ownership is protected, but any speech that promotes gun ownership is classified as dangerous disinformation. They do not pass a law, they just issue a rule change. Under the old Chevron deference system, a court might say, well, the FCC is the expert, so we will trust their interpretation. Under the new framework, after Cargill and Loper Bright, a court would say, well, no. Did Congress specifically give the FCC the power to make that kind of distinction? If not, the rule is invalid. You see how this protects your First Amendment rights just as much as your Second Amendment rights. That is why this decision is so much bigger than just bump stocks. This information is moving fast and new rulings are coming. Subscribe now because my next video covers exactly what gun owners need to do before January 2026, when several key regulatory deadlines hit. You do not want to find out about those deadlines after they have already passed. Hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it could save you years of legal headaches. Let us wrap this up because I want to make sure you leave with the 3 things that actually matter. Number 1. The Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that the ATF did not have the legal authority to ban bump stocks on its own. This is a win for gun owners and for the principle that agencies cannot unilaterally expand criminal law. Number 2, this decision is connected to a broader Supreme Court movement to limit the power of unelected government agencies that protects your First Amendment rights, your Second Amendment rights, and honestly, every other right you have as an American. Number 3, things are still moving. Congress could still act. New cases are still working through the courts. Well, you need to stay informed because your rights depend on it. Look, I spent hours every week digging through court opinions, agency rules, and legal filings so you get accurate information in plain English. The least you can do is hit subscribe so you never miss an update. Your rights are worth 2 seconds of your time, and if this video helped you understand something you did not know before, drop a comment below telling me what surprised you most. Was it the First Amendment connection? The agency power angle? Let me know. Your comments actually help me know what to cover next. Stay legal, stay informed, and I will see you in the next one. Disclaimer: this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary by state and individual circumstances differ. Always consult a licensed attorney for advice specific to your situation.